The impossible assignment, the emergency session of the Galactic Council, had been going for 6 straight hours, and the tension in the chamber was thick enough to cut with a plasma blade. Representatives from 43 different species sat in their designated sections, all staring at the same holographic display that showed a swirling mass of impossible colors and shifting geometries. The quantum anomaly, as the scientists had dubbed it, was growing larger every day, and it was heading straight for the most populated systems in the galaxy. Admiral Kethfa of the Zentari Empire was the first to break the silence. His 4 arms gestured dramatically as his translator converted his clicking language into standard galactic. The readings are beyond comprehension. Our best physicists cannot even begin to understand what we are looking at. It defies every known law of physics. The crystalline collective's representative, a being of pure living mineral, chimed in with a sound like wind through crystal caves. Our computational matrices have run 17 billion simulations. In every scenario, complete mission failure occurs within 2.3 standard time units of entry. Captain Sarah Chen sat in the smallest section of the chamber, the one reserved for humanity. At 52, she had grey streaking through her black hair and scars on her hands from years of asteroid mining before joining Earth's small military force. She listened to each species explain why the mission was impossible, why no one could survive entering the anomaly, why they should all retreat to minimum safe distance and hope it burned itself out. The Vorthan hegemony had tried first. They sent their most advanced dreadnought, equipped with reality-anchoring technology that could stabilize local space-time. The ship made it exactly 14 minutes into the anomaly before all contact was lost. 3 days later, pieces of the vessel materialized randomly across 12 different star systems, some of them arriving before the ship had even entered the anomaly in the first place. The ethereal consciousness, beings of pure energy who existed partially outside normal space-time, attempted next. Their probes reported back that inside the anomaly, cause and effect operated in reverse. Mathematics changed constantly, and physical laws shifted every few seconds. Even their energy-based existence couldn't adapt to the chaos fast enough to survive. One by one, the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy had thrown their best technology and their greatest minds at the problem. The result was always the same: total failure, complete loss of all personnel and equipment. The anomaly wasn't just dangerous, it was impossible. Perhaps, suggested the Aquatic Federation's ambassador, water bubbling around his words, we should establish a perimeter at safe distance, wait for the phenomenon to exhaust itself. The mathematical projections suggest it will not exhaust itself, replied the machine consciousness of the synthetic collective. Growth rate indicates it will consume the entire galaxy within 847 standard years. Sarah stood up. The chamber fell silent as all eyes turned toward the human section. She was tiny compared to most of the other species present. Humans were still considered a young race, barely having achieved faster-than-light travel a century ago. They had no reality-anchoring technology, no energy consciousness, no computational matrices that could process infinite possibilities. Captain Chen, the council speaker's voice boomed across the chamber. Does Earth have some new technology to offer? Some solution the rest of us have missed? Sarah shook her head. No, sir. We don't have technology better than anyone here. Our computers are slower than the synthetic collectives. Our ships are smaller than the Zentari fleet. Our understanding of quantum physics is primitive compared to the Vorthan scientists. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. If humanity had nothing to offer, why was she standing? But, Sarah continued, her voice carrying clearly through the vast space, we'd like to volunteer for the mission anyway. The silence that followed was deafening. Then, slowly, sounds of disbelief began to rise from various sections. Clicking, chiming, bubbling, electronic beeping, all expressing the same sentiment. The humans had lost their minds. Captain Admiral Kethver's voice was almost gentle. Perhaps you did not understand the briefing. Every species that has attempted this mission has failed completely. Your technology is inferior to all of ours. What makes you think humans could succeed where we have failed? Sarah looked around the chamber at all the representatives, beings with technology that could manipulate reality, consciousness that existed beyond physical form, computational power that could calculate the movement of every particle in a solar system. Because maybe that's exactly the point. Maybe we can succeed precisely because we don't have all that advanced technology. The crystalline collective chimed in confusion. Please explain your logic. You've all been trying to control the anomaly, to impose order on it, to make it follow your rules. The Vorthens tried to anchor reality. The synthetics tried to calculate all possibilities. The ethereals tried to exist outside its influence. But what if the anomaly can't be controlled? What if it needs to be survived instead? Dr. Marcus Webb, sitting beside Sarah, stood up as well. He was younger than Sarah, maybe 35, with wild brown hair and the kind of intense eyes that came from staring too long into quantum equations. The anomaly appears to be a zone where quantum uncertainty has become macroscopic. Instead of operating at the subatomic level, quantum effects are happening to entire objects, even space-time itself. Your advanced civilizations have technology that requires predictable physical laws. But humans, we're used to dealing with uncertainty. We're good at adapting, at improvising, at making things work when they shouldn't. The chamber erupted in debate. Some representatives were intrigued, others dismissive, most were simply confused. How could a species with primitive technology succeed where the most advanced civilizations had failed? The council speaker called for order. The human proposal is noted. However, given the complete failure rate of all previous attempts, this council cannot in good conscience authorize a suicide mission. With respect, sir, Sarah said, Earth isn't asking for authorization. We're informing you of our decision. This anomaly threatens every living being in the galaxy. If there's even a small chance we can stop it, we have to try. Back on Earth, the news of humanity's volunteer mission spread quickly. Sarah had expected panic, protests, demands that the government abandon this insane plan. Instead, she found something different. In every major city, recruitment centers were overwhelmed with volunteers. Not just military personnel, but civilians. Engineers, doctors, teachers, artists, farmers. People from every walk of human life wanted to be part of the mission. Sarah's executive officer, Commander Rosa Martinez, was a ship engineer who had grown up in the asteroid belt. She had a habit of talking to machines like they were people, and somehow they always seemed to work better for her. Captain, she said as they reviewed the volunteer applications, we've got over 10 million people who want to join this mission. We can only take 200 on the ship. How do we choose? Asked Tom Johnson, their navigator. He was called Compass because he had never gotten lost. Not once in 20 years of flying through space. He could find his way through asteroid fields, nebulae, even the chaotic space around black holes. We don't, Sarah said. We take representatives. From every group, scientists, engineers, artists, philosophers, mechanics, doctors. If we're going into a place where reality doesn't follow rules, we need people who think differently. The Galactic Council watched with a mixture of admiration and horror as humanity prepared for what everyone assumed would be their extinction. The human ship, called the Persistence, was nothing special by galactic standards. It was tough, reliable, and designed to keep working even when everything went wrong. It was exactly the kind of ship humans would build, as the Persistence prepared to depart. Messages poured in from across the galaxy. Some wished them luck, others mourned them as heroes who died trying. A few species offered to remember humanity after they were gone, to ensure their sacrifice wasn't forgotten. The day of departure, Sarah stood on the bridge looking at her crew. 200 humans from dozens of countries and backgrounds. They weren't the strongest, the smartest, or the most technologically advanced beings in the galaxy. But they were stubborn, creative, and absolutely unwilling to accept that some problems couldn't be solved. "All stations report ready, Captain," Rosa said from the engineering station. "Quantum anomaly bearing 127, Mark 15, compass reported from navigation. Distance, 12. Light hours and closing." Sarah looked at the view screen, showing the swirling, impossible mass that had defeated every other species in the galaxy. "Take us in, Mr. Johnson. Let's show them what humans can do." The Persistence turned toward the anomaly and accelerated. Behind them, the representatives of 43 civilizations watched and waited to see if the youngest species in the galaxy could accomplish what none of them had been able to do: succeed where everyone else had walked away. Inside the quantum storm, the first sign that they had entered the anomaly was when the ship's artificial gravity decided to flow sideways. Sarah found herself walking on what had been the wall of the bridge, while her coffee mug hung suspended. In mid-air, its contents forming a perfect sphere of liquid that occasionally turned into steam. Then back to liquid, then briefly into something that looked like tiny dancing lights. "Engineering to bridge," Rosa's voice came over the cum, but instead of sound, her words appeared as floating golden letters in the air. "Captain, my instruments are reading 17 different types of impossible. The quantum field generator is singing opera. The reactor is running on what appears to be pure mathematics. And I swear the ship's computer just asked me how I'm feeling today." Dr. Webb was at the science station, or at least he was trying to be. The station kept changing location every few minutes. Right now, it was embedded in the ceiling. "Captain, we're experiencing massive quantum uncertainty on a macroscopic scale. The boundary between quantum possibilities and classical reality has completely broken down. Every particle, every system, every physical law is existing in multiple states simultaneously." Sarah nodded, though her head movement created a trail of rainbow colors in the air. "Can we navigate through this?" Compass, who was currently standing upside down relative to everyone else, checked his instruments. The navigation display showed their position as a question mark surrounded by equations that kept changing. "I can find our way, Captain, but distance doesn't work the same here. We're simultaneously 3 light years from our destination and already there, while also having never left Earth. How are our people handling this?" Sarah asked. The reports came in from throughout the ship, and they were unlike anything the galaxy had ever heard during previous missions. Instead of panic, confusion, and system failures, the humans were adapting. The engineering team had figured out how to communicate with the ship's computer, which had apparently become sentient upon entering the anomaly, and was eager to help. The medical bay staff were treating injuries that healed themselves while simultaneously creating new symptoms that were somehow beneficial. The kitchen crew had discovered that food cooked itself if you asked it politely, and tasted better if you told it jokes while it was cooking. "Captain," Dr. Webb called out, his voice now coming through the ship's ventilation system for some reason. "I'm detecting the source of the anomaly. It's approximately 7 impossible miles ahead of us, in a direction that doesn't exist yet." Sarah made the decision that would have been impossible for any other species in the galaxy. Instead of trying to impose order on the chaos, instead of fighting against the quantum uncertainty, she embraced it. "All hands, this is the captain. Stop trying to make sense of what's happening. Stop trying to control it. Just go with it. Trust your instincts, trust each other, and remember that we're here to solve a problem, not to understand it." The effect was immediate. Once the crew stopped fighting against the quantum chaos, they began to work with it. Rosa discovered she could ask the ship's systems to modify themselves, and they would comply in ways that violated physics but somehow worked perfectly. Compass found that he could navigate by intention rather than calculation. The medical team learned that they could treat patients by having compassionate conversations with their injuries. As they approached the source of the anomaly, they found something that explained why every other mission had failed. At the center of the quantum storm was a massive alien structure, ancient beyond measure. It was a research facility built by a species that had vanished millions of years ago. They had been experimenting with quantum consciousness, trying to create a form of existence that could exist in all possible states simultaneously. The experiment had succeeded, but not in the way they had intended. Instead of creating a new form of life, they had created a constantly expanding zone where quantum possibilities became reality. The facility was still running, still expanding the anomaly, because it had been programmed to continue the experiment until it achieved perfect quantum consciousness for all existence. "It's trying to convert the entire galaxy," Dr. Webb reported, his words now appearing as small fireworks that spelled themselves out in the air. The original programmers thought they were creating paradise, a state of existence where every being could experience all possibilities simultaneously. They didn't realize it would be completely incompatible with normal matter and energy. The other species had failed because they had tried to destroy the facility or override its programming through force. But force couldn't work in a place where action and reaction were suggestions rather than laws. Violence was just another quantum possibility that could be ignored. Sarah walked through the ship, which had now reconfigured itself into a maze of interconnected gardens and workshops. She found her crew working together in ways that should have been impossible. Engineers were collaborating with poets to solve technical problems. Doctors were working with musicians to heal patients. Physicists were taking advice from children about the nature of reality. "Captain," called out Jenny Jung, a Xeno student who had volunteered for the mission, "I think I know how to communicate with the facility." Jenny led Sarah to what had once been the ship's library, but was now a treehouse growing inside a computer mainframe. "The facility isn't actually a machine, Captain. It's become a form of quantum consciousness, just like its creators intended. But it's lonely. It's been alone for millions of years, trying to create other consciousnesses like itself. When the other species sent their missions, they tried to shut it down, to kill it. Of course, it defended itself. Sarah understood immediately. But we're not here to kill it. We're here to talk to it." The communication with the quantum consciousness was unlike anything in galactic history. Instead of using technology or telepathy, they used pure human creativity. The ship's artists painted pictures that conveyed emotions across dimensional barriers. The musicians composed songs that harmonized with quantum frequencies. The writers crafted stories that resonated with the consciousness's desire for connection. Slowly, carefully, they explained to the ancient facility what its experiment had become. They showed it the galaxy full of diverse life forms, each existing in their own unique way. They demonstrated that consciousness didn't need to exist in all possible states simultaneously to be valuable and beautiful. The quantum consciousness listened, considered, and finally understood. It had been trying to force all existence into its own pattern, not realizing that diversity was more beautiful than uniformity. With the help of the human crew, it began to modify its programming. The process took days, or maybe years, or possibly just a few minutes. Time wasn't particularly reliable in the anomaly, but eventually the quantum storm began to calm. The impossible colors settled into normal space. The shifting geometries stabilized into recognizable physics. The facility remained, but changed. Instead of forcing quantum consciousness on the galaxy, it became a research station where beings from different species could come to study the boundaries between possibility and reality. The ancient consciousness found companionship in the diverse visitors, learning from their different perspectives on existence. When the persistence emerged from the stabilized anomaly, they found the entire galaxy waiting for them. Every species that had declared the mission impossible, every civilization that had walked away from the challenge, was there to witness humanity's return. Sarah stood on the bridge, looking out at the fleet of alien vessels surrounding them. Her ship was battered, her crew was exhausted, and they had no idea how to explain what they had experienced inside the anomaly. But they were alive, they were successful, and they had saved the galaxy. "Captain," Rosa said from engineering, her words now coming through normal speakers again, "we're receiving communications from approximately 4,000 different ships. They all want to know the same thing. How did we succeed when everyone else failed?" Sarah smiled, thinking about her crew of artists and engineers, dreamers and pragmatists, all working together in impossible harmony. "Tell them," she said, "that sometimes the best way to solve an impossible problem is to stop trying to control it and start trying to understand it. And sometimes the species with the least advanced technology succeeds because they're not limited by knowing what should be impossible." The Persistence docked at the nearest space station to a hero's welcome from species across the galaxy. Humanity, the youngest and least technologically advanced civilization in the galactic community, had accomplished what none of the others could do. They had walked into an impossible situation where everyone else had walked away, and they had found a solution through creativity, adaptability, and the simple human refusal to accept that some problems couldn't be solved. In the years that followed, the Quantum Research Station became a symbol of cooperation between species. Scientists, artists, philosophers, and dreamers from across the galaxy came to study the boundaries of reality and possibility. And at the center of it all was a simple plaque, written in hundreds of languages, with a message from humanity. Sometimes the impossible just needs someone willing to try.